Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling around you, knowing that the next step could either send you plummeting or launch you into the air, soaring higher than you've ever dreamed. That cliff is the metaphorical landscape of life, business, and personal growth, where most people choose the safety of the ledge, clinging to familiarity, fearing the risk of falling, and labeling every potential mistake as catastrophic. Yet, history's most extraordinary innovators, leaders, and creators, people who have reshaped the world, have treated that very cliff not as a threat, but as an invitation, a platform for experimentation, and the catalyst for transformation. From Thomas Edison, who reportedly made 1,000 failed attempts before perfecting the light bulb, to Elon Musk's iterative rocket experiments that initially ended in spectacular fireballs, the pattern is clear. The people who change the world embrace failure not as a verdict, but as a data point, a stepping stone, and a launch pad. In our modern, hyper-competitive, hyper-connected world, the stakes are even higher, yet the principle remains timeless. Those who fail fast, learn faster, adapt quicker, and ultimately win far beyond the imagined limitations of conventional caution. The fail fast, win faster mindset is not a gimmick, a motivational catchphrase, or a simplistic mantra. It is a cognitive architecture, a behavioral framework, and a lifestyle philosophy that fundamentally redefines how you perceive challenges, setbacks, and obstacles. It requires rewiring your brain to reframe failure from an emotional catastrophe into a practical, tangible, and even exhilarating feedback loop, where every misstep illuminates the path forward with unprecedented clarity. Imagine a world in which each miscalculation doesn't crush your confidence, but instead fuels a relentless curiosity, amplifies creativity, and triggers a compounding cascade of insights, lessons, and breakthroughs that catapult you far beyond competitors who cling desperately to safety. This is not wishful thinking or abstract theory. This is science, psychology, and real-world evidence converging into a replicable model of accelerated growth. Neural pathways in the brain, studies on cognitive flexibility, and behavioral research all indicate that rapid experimentation, rapid failing, dramatically enhances learning, memory, and adaptive decision-making, enabling individuals to pivot quickly, seize unforeseen opportunities, and transform potential disasters into strategic advantages. Yet, adopting this mindset is far more than intellectual understanding. It is an emotional, spiritual, and practical transformation that reshapes your relationship with risk, control, and identity itself. You must learn to detach your sense of self-worth from external outcomes, viewing failure not as a reflection of who you are, but as a mirror reflecting what you can improve, iterate, and refine. And the payoff is enormous: accelerated growth, enhanced resilience, and an almost magical capacity to innovate faster, smarter, and more creatively than peers trapped in the slow, cautious cycles of fear-based decision-making. In this book, you will discover the psychological hacks, practical tools, and transformational frameworks that allow you to harness the power of failing fast in every domain of your life: career, entrepreneurship, relationships, and personal mastery, turning every setback into a springboard for unprecedented success. You will encounter real-world stories of triumphs born from early failures, uncover the neuroscience behind rapid learning, and explore actionable exercises designed to reprogram your mind, eliminate fear, and create a culture of fearless experimentation around you. By the end of this journey, you will not only embrace the concept of failing fast as a rational strategy, but as an exhilarating, energizing, and profoundly liberating way of life. You will learn that failure is a temporary data point, not a permanent state, and that every misstep carries a hidden opportunity waiting to be uncovered with curiosity, courage, and relentless persistence. So if you are ready to abandon the illusion of safety, challenge the conventional wisdom that equates risk with danger, and adopt a mindset that transforms fear into fuel, then strap yourself in, because this is more than a book, it is a mindset revolution. It is the key to winning faster, living bolder, and achieving results that once seemed impossible. Every page that follows is a blueprint, a manual, and a personal call to action to embrace the paradoxical truth that by failing faster, you will inevitably win faster, and the moment you internalize this truth, everything in your life begins to change. From the earliest days of our lives, we are conditioned to see failure as a permanent stain on our identity, a mark of inadequacy, and a signal to retreat into safety, comfort, and mediocrity. From childhood classrooms to corporate corridors, society teaches us to avoid mistakes at all costs, to get it right the first time, and to measure self-worth by the absence of failure rather than by the courage to act, experiment, and risk. Yet, this pervasive myth that failure is the enemy of success is not only wrong, it is profoundly limiting, stifling creativity, crushing innovation, and ensuring that most people spend their lives in the shadow of unrealized potential. Consider the countless innovators, entrepreneurs, athletes, and artists who rewrote the rules of possibility precisely because they shattered this myth. Thomas Edison, who famously failed 1,000 times before perfecting the incandescent light bulb, did not regard each misstep as a reflection of personal inadequacy. He viewed it as essential data in the process of invention, each attempt bringing him closer to illumination. Similarly, J.K. Rowling faced repeated rejections before the Harry Potter series found a publisher, not because she lacked talent, but because the conventional gatekeepers of the publishing world were unwilling or unable to see the potential that had yet to be fully realized. The common thread among these high achievers is not luck, innate genius, or even relentless effort alone, but an internalized understanding that failure is not the enemy, it is the raw material from which mastery is forged. This chapter dismantles the myths surrounding failure and reframes it as a strategic asset, showing that the stories of failure and the lessons they impart are not anomalies but universal principles that apply across domains, cultures, and industries. Scientific research in psychology and neuroscience underscores this reality. When individuals experience controlled incremental failure and are encouraged to reflect, iterate, and adapt, their brains develop stronger neural pathways, enhance problem-solving abilities, and significantly increase cognitive flexibility, making them far more capable of navigating complex, unpredictable environments. This is why Silicon Valley startups, elite sports teams, and top creative agencies embrace a culture of experimentation, iteration, and rapid testing. They understand that failure is not a liability, but a multiplier of learning, speed, and eventual success. Yet, despite this evidence, cultural stigma continues to create a psychological ceiling that prevents most people from taking bold action, leaving them trapped in cycles of perfectionism, procrastination, and fear-driven decision-making. Breaking free requires both a shift in mindset and an actionable framework. You must consciously redefine what failure means to you, separating the outcome of an experiment from your self-worth and internalizing the idea that mistakes are temporary, controllable, and essential feedback loops that accelerate growth. Practical exercises like failure journaling, where every misstep is recorded along with insights gained, and micro-experiments, where small low-risk trials are used to test ideas quickly, help train the mind to see failure as fuel rather than punishment. Through detailed examples, stories, and research, this chapter reveals that the fear of failure is a social construct perpetuated by educational systems, cultural narratives, and institutional incentives that reward the avoidance of mistakes more than the courage to innovate. By confronting and dismantling these myths, you begin to reclaim agency over your learning, your experimentation, and your trajectory, transforming obstacles into stepping stones and redefining every setback as a temporary, actionable signal guiding you closer to success. Moreover, embracing this philosophy does not mean embracing recklessness. Rather, it is a disciplined, strategic approach to risk management, where each failure is treated as data to refine methods, adjust strategies, and optimize outcomes in real time. By reframing failure as a measurable, actionable, and essential element of the journey, you are no longer paralyzed by the fear of what could go wrong. Instead, you are empowered to ask, "What can I learn if I try and it doesn't work?" This simple yet profound question shifts the locus of control from external validation to internal mastery, from avoidance to curiosity, and from stagnation to momentum. The greatest achievers in history, from innovators like Nikola Tesla to business visionaries like Steve Jobs, demonstrated that success is not a linear trajectory, but a dynamic, iterative process fueled by experimentation, observation, and rapid adaptation. By understanding and internalizing the truth behind the myth of failure, you unlock a new paradigm for living, thinking, and performing, one in which setbacks are not the enemy, but the engine of progress, not a measure of inadequacy, but a compass guiding you toward breakthroughs, and not a reason to quit, but an invitation to refine, iterate, and rise stronger than before. This chapter arms you with both the intellectual insight and practical tools to begin rewriting your relationship with failure immediately, helping you see that the path to extraordinary achievement is paved not with unbroken streaks of success, but with the courage to fail, reflect, and iterate faster than anyone else. And in doing so, you begin to step into the transformative power of the fail fast, win faster mindset. In the quest to win faster, the secret weapon that most people overlook is not harder work, more hours, or even raw talent. It is the way the brain learns, adapts, and transforms experience into actionable knowledge. And at the heart of this process lies the incredible phenomenon of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections in response to learning, experience, and even failure. Traditional models of success often emphasize repetition, slow incremental improvement, or trial and error delayed over months and years. But the cutting-edge science of accelerated learning reveals a far more powerful approach: rapid iteration through what I call fast learning cycles, where the velocity of experience, feedback, and adaptation compounds learning at an exponential rate. When you fail fast, your brain engages in a dynamic process of error detection, hypothesis testing, and feedback integration, which strengthens synaptic connections and rewires neural pathways to enhance problem-solving, decision-making, and creative insight. Studies in cognitive neuroscience demonstrate that controlled, frequent exposure to challenge and failure triggers the release of dopamine in the brain, not merely as a reward for success, but as a reinforcement signal for learning, meaning that every mistake, every misstep, and every setback becomes a biochemical accelerator of skill acquisition, provided you reflect, analyze, and iterate on the experience. This is why elite athletes, top-tier entrepreneurs, and world-class performers embrace early, frequent experimentation. The brain thrives in environments where failure is normalized, feedback is immediate, and learning is deliberate, creating what researchers call a growth feedback loop, where the more often you attempt, fail, and adjust, the faster you internalize lessons and the more agile your cognitive and emotional responses become. The principle is simple yet revolutionary. Speed of learning matters far more than initial performance, and the fastest learners are not those who avoid failure, but those who fail strategically, consistently, and with intention, using each setback as a rich source of information. Cognitive psychologists describe this this process in terms of desirable difficulties, the idea that the brain retains knowledge more effectively when challenged with obstacles, errors, and complex problem-solving tasks, rather than passive repetition. In practice, this translates into structured experimentation, rapid prototyping, and frequent testing, all designed to maximize the density of learning experiences per unit of time. Consider, for instance, software engineers at leading tech companies who deploy features, observe user behavior, analyze outcomes, and iterate within hours or days, rather than waiting months to perfect a product in isolation. Every failure is immediately transformed into insight that informs the next iteration, drastically reducing the cycle time to mastery and competitive advantage. Similarly, musicians, athletes, and artists who engage in deliberate practice that incorporates immediate feedback and high-risk experimentation often progress far faster than peers who focus solely on repetition of familiar routines, illustrating the universal applicability of fast learning across domains. Yet the science also reveals a critical caveat. Fast learning is most effective when coupled with reflection, structured analysis, and emotional resilience. Simply failing repeatedly without extracting insights reinforces patterns of error and can erode confidence rather than enhance skill. This is why successful individuals create systems for debriefing, journaling, and analyzing each attempt, extracting the signal from the noise, and transforming each misstep into a precise blueprint for improvement. For example, in elite sports, video review allows athletes to dissect every motion, misstep, and decision, turning ephemeral failures into permanent lessons that accelerate neuromuscular learning, decision speed, and strategic insight. Entrepreneurs who conduct rapid market tests, analyze user engagement, and pivot based on real-world evidence embody the same principle at a business scale. Failure becomes not a personal indictment, but a data-generating mechanism that feeds the system of growth. The implications for personal development are profound. Understanding the science of fast learning transforms failure from a feared endpoint into a measurable, predictable, and even exhilarating engine of skill acquisition, creativity, and innovation. When you internalize this mindset, setbacks no longer produce anxiety or paralysis. They trigger curiosity, experimentation, and relentless iteration, creating a compounding effect where each failure accelerates learning and increases the probability of breakthrough success. Neurobiological evidence supports this approach. Repeated exposure to failure and feedback strengthens the prefrontal cortex, enhances executive function, and improves cognitive flexibility, enabling individuals to adapt rapidly to new contexts, pivot strategies with agility, and make high-quality decisions under uncertainty.